Hello, everybody. I am Kiko, and welcome to the studio. So, I've been debating on what to do with this channel for a while. True North Audio has a little bit clearer vision in my head, being a kind of retail channel or channel for a retail business I own. I have a little bit more stringent idea of what kind of works on the channel. It's still pretty wide open, but not wide open like this one is. I can really just kind of do anything audio related on here. So I've decided I'm going to just kind of play around, make some videos, see what feels good, see what people like, and see what I like, and kind of go from there. And to start off, Arturia has put out an update, version 4, of their flagship product, or flagship soft synth, kind of modern soft synth, Pigments. And as somebody who's been using Pigments for some time now, I thought I'd dive in and actually give it a good kind of explore. So I'll talk a little bit about what it is, what's new in it, what I like about it. Then I'm just going to kind of patch for a little bit and see what I can get out of it. For those not familiar with Pigments, it is, as I said earlier, the sort of flagship modern soft synth for Arturia. Now, one of the things about Arturia that's really cool is that because they make a lot of hardware and hardware emulations of like classic old synth units like the Fairlight or the CS80 or the DX7, they do have a very kind of analog mindset. And that comes through in Pigments in a way that it doesn't in a lot of other soft synths, but not in a way that sacrifices what makes it a really powerful modern synth. One of the things that's great about Pigments compared to a lot of other modern ones is the variety of sounds and the variety of engines and how in depth each of them gets. You have a lot of really good, deep kind of sound design, landscape building type options. Not only do you have wavetable, analog, sample based, even like additive harmonic synthesis, but you don't have to sacrifice anything on those engines. Each of them is a very powerful engine by itself, and you can stack them kind of however you want. Like the sample engine has a round robin option, it has granular. The analog engine has internal FM, and that's not even getting to the utility stuff like the noise or the sub oscillator. And then in the effects, you've got two serial and parallel effects bank, which you can fill out with whatever you want. Again, unlike a lot of synthesizers, which kind of give you one of each effect, and then you can kind of play around with where it is in the rack, you can line up 9 of one effect if you wanted to, which would be kind of ridiculous, but I mean, you can do some pretty cool stuff with that. I've seen a lot of people do like weird distortion. I mean, you can do the data broth thing and just stack 9 distortions on each other and make it really, really gritty if you wanted to. And you can't really do that with a lot of others in the way you can with this one. So you have a lot of freedom in Pigments that I feel like you don't get in, say, Vital or Serum. Now, if you own Pigments already, version 4 is free. It's just an upgrade, which is great. I'm glad that they're doing it that way. Every time I see that they got a new number, some little part of me panics that I'm going to have to pay for it again, or just deal with what I have until I can afford it, which is not the end of the world because Pigments was already good. But I'm glad I didn't have to pay for this one because this added a lot of the little kind of workflow hacks that I've been hoping to get for a long time. On paper, the additions are not that much. It may seem like there's not an impressive number of new things. It's just a couple effects, maybe some UI changes, compatibility with software that a lot of people aren't using. But realistically, what they've done is gone for a user experience, quality over quantity kind of update. And I personally am really excited about that. I am really excited about the effects and everything too, but a lot of what they've added are little things that have kind of fixed personal gripes I've had with this particular synth for a while. Again, no issue within the past, but it has made my workflow a lot faster. And I mean, if there's anything, workflow and feel of a tool or of an instrument, something you're working with, honestly can sometimes go a lot further even than features. And when you have both, you're in really good shape. And right now, Pigments is really nailing both. Starting here with the changes, if you're familiar with Pigments, you'll notice that the layout here is a little different, a little kind of simplified. By the way, as I play through here, you're probably going to hear me fat finger some keys and end up with some really nasty dissonance. I'm not a great keyboardist. But jumping in, this is the play mode. Very straightforward. It is the most essential things you're going to need on screen. So if you're performing, you got a lot of other things going on. Like I'm somebody who sits in the studio all the time. I can sit there with the whole interface and just slowly pick out what I need. But if you're performing, you want to just get quick access to all the most important things. Here's your wavetable, here's your volume, here's your cutoff, here's your resonance, here's your ADSR. Not going to go crazy with anything. They've also added a light mode, which I'm not even going to bring up for this video. It is not made for me. I am not the person that this edition is for. I have really bad light sensitivity. I have a difficult time reading it, and bright mode and anything makes my eyes and my head hurt really bad. But I know that a lot of people like Andrew Hong, for example, are going to really enjoy a good light mode. I think of them with their really bright, vibrant kind of studio sort of vibes, and I feel like the light mode is very much for that type of producer. But I am somebody who really likes to personalize or even just change the look of something I'm using. If you've seen me use Vital or Phase Plant in the past, you'll notice I'm using color schemes and skins that are not the default. And so even though this particular mode is not for me, I like that they're adding modes because maybe it'll mean I get an even darker mode, which is better for me. Moving around the interface real quick, you'll see that there are little arrows now next to a lot of these kind of changeable controls. So I can click on them and I can choose one out of the menu, but I can also quickly flip through these different settings, which is really nice because you can get kind of an idea of the filter sound, for example, like I'm flicking through here, very quickly. It's a really great workflow hack. And you can do the same with wavetables, the modulation down here. Go over here, you've got the unison mode. All of that is a lot faster now. And even more importantly, the big one for me is the drag and drop modulation. Like in a lot of the other synths, this one reminds me a lot of Phase Plant and Vital specifically. I love having this option because it makes things a lot faster for me. The way you used to have to do it, which you can still do, they've not completely rearranged it. But personally, I didn't like having to click on this and then find and select and bring in whatever effect I wanted. I actually like being able to just drag and drop. But the great thing is, of course, you can do either one. Another great thing is these quick little on-off switches. So I can very quickly and easily just switch through, do I want the sequencer on? If you go down to the LFOs, you'll see that there are these little waveforms now. You can quickly and easily say, I want like a triangle or a square shape in my LFO. You don't have to sit there and try to shape it or find it in a menu. It's just right there, nice and fast and easy. Again, workflow is so important, and I'm really thankful that they have this. And you can remove one of those little modulators by just double-clicking on it, which is also really quick and fast and easy. Open up the harmonic engine here. They've added a couple little things like the random phase of the different harmonics. They've got a few little additions to things like the granular in the sample engine. They've got a new filter here, the MS-21, which happens conveniently to be the one I settled on. If I come into effects, ones they've added, we can throw in, for example, a shimmer reverb. This one's really cool because it has a lot of like pitch features, and I think I've not played around with it enough, so I can't say for sure, but I think you might be able to even get some of that kind of like Blade Runner descending pitch down kind of reverb out of it. That being said, one of my personal complaints about the update is that this pitch knob here is not modulatable. I want that to be modulatable, so just Arturia, if you are watching, I know you are, myself and the 4 subscribers of the making of this video, I'm sure are very important in the office, and you guys are hanging on everything I have to say. But for real, I would love to see modulation on this, because I bet you could do some really, really cool envelope effects with this, or even just mess around with it if you want a really dynamic pad. Give a little bit of a sample and hold kind of random flutter on that pitch. Another addition is this super unison. I really like this. Having like an instrument level unison is really cool. I think unison is really great for any number of sounds that you're trying to get. It just makes the whole thing sound bigger and fatter and more awesome. And having that instrument wide can be really useful when you're working with something like Pigments that has tons of different kinds of engine. You can kind of do whatever you want in those engines, not have to worry about the unison in those, and have your master setting at the end in this effects chain that changes the whole way the instrument feels without having to mess with it in every single engine. Getting into the sequencer here, you'll see another thing they've changed. In your sync-based effects, you now have triplets and dotted notes, so you can kind of get really funky with the way you can kind of mess around with the way that they are actually synced, and you can modulate the way that they're synced so that you can kind of create like a funky rhythm out of that. Again, get like a sample and hold, some kind of random in that, and you can get a little bit more unusual beat and kind of work on that sort of like self-generated sound. Personally, I don't feel like there's a lot off the top of my head that I would change or add other than little details. I think that really Pigments has added a lot of the things that have made me want to use it more, because they've added the things that make it a lot faster for me to use. If you are somebody who is very familiar with Vital or Phase Plant or even Serum, I think the workflow is going to be a lot more conducive to you now. But I also find that this one is, like I said, very powerful compared to a lot of those. And you're going to get a very different feel out of it, and especially that much more natural kind of analog feel that a lot of others can kind of miss. Overall, closing thoughts are that this is a really solid soft synth. I can see why all the people who love Pigments as their number one, their main go-to do. And I think that this is only going to really strengthen Arturia's share in the modern soft synth world. So getting that out of the way, I think I'm just going to kind of play around with it a little bit now, and you can kind of watch me dial a patch, because sometimes that's just fun and really satisfying.